how many children can you put on a ladybird deed?
That's a great question, Bob. This is how we handle it. We consult with you and first determine, of course, how many children. If it's one or two, and that absolutely is fine. If there are more, let's say four, five, six, that may require that although we can put all four, five, or six, it may require talking about an additional step or an additional tool. And Bob, let me stop here. How many children are you thinking of?
5.
Five. Okay. So with those five, this is our starting point. We would say, Bob, do you feel comfortable that all five are easily going to work together? And it will be fine down the road when you and your wife pass away. If you tell us that you feel very comfortable with that, then we are fine to put all five on. When a client tells us they're not comfortable with that, then we do take the next step and we add in another tool to, if you will, put one that's going to be in charge. Let's say in charge to sell it, and then it's still being split up between all five, but it may require something additional. But yes, if you feel comfortable with all five, we're okay to list all five.
Bob, does
Oh,
that answer
well,
your question?
it certainly does, and I thank you very much, and I will be in touch with you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
We look forward to being of service to you. So a ladybird deed that Bob was speaking of is a tool to avoid probate here on real estate here in Florida. It can be your home, your rental property, your beach condo, your vacant land, your office building. We can use it even if there's a mortgage on your property. When we do a ladybird deed, like for Bob, within the body of the deed itself, it literally gives the names of his 5 kids. And it says when Bob and his wife have passed away, that home will automatically go to those 5 kids. No headaches, no hassles, no probate. The only thing the kids will need to do is record Bob's death certificate in the public records, and it will automatically belong to them. It couldn't be more simple.
Correct. And of course, it's very important to add, because thank you. Yes, great. As long as Bob and his wife are alive, they are in complete control.
Absolutely.
So only when they both pass away, then it makes it simple, because like you said, Tom, all 5 children are named in the body of the deed, but it's very crystal clear with the legal language that we use that they do not have any ownership rights until both Bob and his wife pass away. Then it would go directly to the 5 children. It seemed as if Bob was comfortable, of course, with those 5 children. And I think just to add to that then is that we know, though, and why do we say this now? Because I know, Tom, you always say back in the day, you would do estate planning for families, and they may have 1, 2, 5, 10, 15 kids. It didn't matter. Everything was going to be smooth. Fast forward to now, it is very often, at least 50% of the time, probably more, that things are not smooth. And parents will share with us that they even have a concern about things being smooth. And with that said, again, we are trying to help the parents, and we want to be able to put together the right tools to give them the peace of mind, and we want to make sure that things are simple as possible for these children. So sometimes, and I say sometimes, it's probably now more often that we will need to do an additional tool. That additional tool again means that it is not going directly outright to all 5. We have to put this little land trust in there, and I say little land trust because it's just a tool that we're putting in there in between. We're using the ladybird deed. However, we are putting, for example, one child in charge. That one child, the ladybird deed, it works the same way, but yet this one child is in charge to sell it and then distribute equally all the proceeds to however many kids are to receive.
So doing the ladybird deed and passing Bob's home on to his 5 kids, It works beautifully. Couldn't be more simple. But then they get to the harder part. You got 5 kids who own that home. They have to work together
Exactly.
to decide whether they want to keep it, sell it, rent it, buy each other out.
Correct.
If they want to sell it, they got to work together to choose a real estate agent, agree on a purchase price, show up and sign all the closing documents at the moment of closing. That can be the hard part, but that's not a legal issue. That's a family drama
Logistics.
issue. Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And so sometimes if Bob said, hey, I got 5 kids, and guess what? They fight like cats and dogs. Well, then
Exactly.
we're talking about doing this land trust so that when Bob
Correct.
passes away, only one of the kids will be in charge of all 5 get the proceeds from the sale of the house, but only one child will be in charge as far as finding a real estate agent, selling the property, divvying up the proceeds.
Correct. And the reason why we are doing this more often is because we do hear from the parents more and more often their concern about the kids getting along. And there are also situations where the parents are concerned that maybe one or more children, there's addiction issues.
Yeah.
And that's a reason, again, where we have to do this tool. And so the parents can still have a peace of mind. We are still using the Ladybird deed, but we're just taking some additional steps and precautions to make sure that things are smooth, because the other things the parents are concerned about is they're concerned that this one particular child, or even 2 that are going to be in charge, they don't want to make things difficult for them. And that's why, again, we put the legal documentation in place to make it easy for them to take care of business, but ensure that every child still gets their share.
Chrissy, we know from experience that when you have kids, every child is different.
Right?
And when you've got 5 kids, the odds are that you got at least, I don't call it a bad seed, but, maybe
Well,
addiction issues, alcohol issues. Odds are that at least one of the kids have got some kind of problem going on. And that's, that in and of itself is a reason.
Exactly.
But I'll tell you another reason is that if you have a child that's lived with mom and dad forever and ever, and now mom and dad pass away, guess what? That child that's lived with mom and dad forever, guess what their expectation is?
Right, that they
I
will
should
get
be
that
allowed
house.
to continue to live in this house for as long as I live.
Correct.
That's not a legal basis or theory or expectation. It's their own personal theory or expectation, because
Exactly.
I've always lived with mom and dad. Why can't I live here forever and ever? All the other kids, rightfully so, they want to sell that house, get their share of the proceeds, and do what they want to do.
However, exactly right. And Tom, thank you for bringing up, because that's also another possibility and another example. And it's our job as the attorneys to be able to guide the parents. Why? Because absolutely, can we do that? Can we help you? Can that home go to that one child? Yes, it can. Because then what we are doing is we're helping you to divide the other assets
Sometimes.
so that other things go to those other children. And then this one child will be able to continue and live there. So we help in that way also.
Excellent point, Chrissy.